Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Educator Collins Snap channel. How you doing? So, before we get started, I did want to have a moment of silence for all of our fallen comrades. All right, let's get started here. So, it's been a little while. It's been a month. What a long month it's been, but we do have a lot to talk about. So, we're going to go over through the spotlights, but a little bit of update of what I've been doing. So, been streaming, whatever. I haven't really been doing a ton of super strict Marvel Snap stuff. I've just been playing on my Hearthstone, playing Hearthstone, and essentially Bazaar has come out, and I've also added that to my game list. So, in terms of YouTube, I am still doing the monthly Marvel Snap. That's not changing. I still like doing that. I still like talking about Marvel Snap stuff. I just really haven't been doing other content related to Marvel Snap in the terms of YouTube and things like that. Now, I do still have the Hearthstone channel, so I've been playing Hearthstone Duos in NA. Currently, me and my teammate are ranked number one in Hearthstone Duos. You know how it is for me. So if you do want to check that out, you can always check out my Hearthstone stuff. And then in terms of Bazaar, I also have my original Educator Collins channel. I will be uploading some Bazaar content for there. So I am still around in the space. I'm not focusing YouTube or Twitch on Marvel Snap, but if you do want to see more of me, you do want to see some Bazaar content or some Hearthstone duels, tips and tricks, that kind of thing, you can check out the links in the description bar. But other than that, we've got some Marvel Snap to talk about. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the November Spotlight Cast tier list. So, we do have the same ratings as before, S through D. S through B is all pretty acceptable, and then C and D, you do have to think about your choices, think about using your keys, because there's usually some options, or you're usually going for one specific card or a spotlight variant or anything like that. So we've been doing this. I'm going to continue talking about the season pass card in this video. So we do have Surtur. So Surtur is 3/5 with after you play a card with 10 plus power, this gains plus 3 power. So the argument here is that you have to build a pretty heavy deck to make this work. But if you do, this works perfectly with Scar. You play Surtur on 3, and as long as you play 2 10 plus power cards during the turns of 4 and 5, your Surtur will have plus 10 power, 11 power, in fact. And then your Scar will be free, so you get to play a free Scar on top of whatever you're doing turn 6. So that is absolutely strong and just a big amount of stats. And the notion is like playing the Scar also buffs the Surtur. So it's not like Surtur's like an 11 power card, that activates Surtur. Surtur is like a sometimes 17 power card that that activates Surtur. So the card is just very overtuned, probably. Very good. It's just the argument to be made is that you have to build your deck around Scar decks, right? And Scar usually had this like issue where it was kind of hard to build around, but they've released a lot of good like support for Scar decks recently, right? They buffed Typhoid Mary. It's a lot better to play. You don't feel horrendous about playing her. And they've just buffed, Atuma. They've buffed a lot of these 410s. So it used to be kind of hard because there wasn't like super good options, but now there really are pretty good options. So the Surtur on 3, solid angle, and then it's kind of easy to play a 10 plus card on 4 and 5, and then your Scar is free. So this has just been a very good card for Scar decks, and even without Scar, it's acceptable. Like a 3/8, right? is a good card in my opinion. Like that's Gladiator. It's a 3/8, right? But and I don't think it's that hard to have like a 1 or 2 10+ power cards, even if you're not like fully committing to Scar. I do think most people who are playing Surtur right now are pretty much committing to Scar, but even if you didn't have Scar and you just wanted like a big beat stick, as long as you're playing some synergistic big drops at the end, this is still going to be very good power. Honestly, seeing it in play, I do think there's like I think a 3/4 is like pretty no brainer because it doesn't remove any of the synergies that you want this card for, right? Like it still goes to 10 power and it still just activates. You just lose 1 power, which isn't like the biggest deal. So I do think like a 3/4 is probably in the works for this card, but Second Dinner wants to sell their season passes, so they're making it better or at least safer than it needs to be in my opinion. But this is what we have here, so I do think of course that you are going to if you play Scar, this card is just Omega strong for Scar, and it just looks to be like a pretty powerful 3-drop staple. It's kind of the thing Scar was looking for. Because Scar before was sometimes if you were lucky you could like back when Mockingbird was 10 power, you could use Mockingbird as kind of like a pseudo Surtur to activate the 0 power Scar, but they kind of removed that. You can still kind of do it with Sasquatch, but Sasquatch requires like a specific curve. You need Mysterio, right? And it's not like as consistent as just playing a Surtur. So now that you have the Surtur, you have this a lot of consistency to just have Scar be 0 power turn 6 a lot of the time. And it's really powerful, really strong. If you do have Scar, Surtur does look to be a pretty powerful pickup. You've probably seen lots of people play this because it's just very good. There are some ways to deal with. We need more like hazmat type cards. You know what I mean? Like cards that reduce power. Like people are using Man Thing, but I don't like Man Thing all that much. But people are using it to try to like remove the 410, make it not as good. We need more effects that can really manipulate the stats. Like if there's an effect that was like equalize your stats so that you play a 410, it ends up being like a 4/8 or something. Like that would really hurt certain decks, but there isn't that like Omega heavy counterplay to Scar right now, so it just gets to run rampant. But in terms of a season pass, I do think this is a very strong one. Likely hard to remove the synergy, right? Because you're buying this card because it works with Scar. So even if they like nerfed it a little bit, it still should work with Scar. So at the end of the day, like it's hard to really change the base essence of this card not to fulfill the role you get it for. So they have a power to lose, right? It feels intensely designed where they release it a little bit overtuned, not a little bit, but like they release overtuned, and then they're like, oh, we're gonna move it to a 3/4, and like it still perfectly works. I can't be mad at this. But yeah, for sure, the card's strong, and if you are playing Scar, you have Scar, or you want to join in the fun, this is just very good for that. So seems correct. All right, so let's look at some of the spotlight caches now. First off, we do have Frigathena Valentina. So this is a pretty expensive spotlight. I don't know if I got put the tokens right on all of them, but let's see. So all of Series 5 cards, so that's usually a good sign for a spotlight being good. And then the big payoff is Thena. I would say that's the best card in this set. Frigga is not bad, but I do think like Thena, especially last season, was really, really good with Agent Venom. Just having a 2/4 that scales. Thena is Scar levels of power, right? And you essentially. So if you've played with Scar, you've played with Thena, it's very good when it works. So definitely a card to pick up. Valentina, not really the best card right now. It's definitely overshadowed by other 2-drops in my opinion, like Thena being one of them, right? It had like the potential of like being able to high roll, but The -3 is pretty expensive, in my opinion, in the play. So sometimes you play it and you get some dead cards and you don't feel super good about it. So that's kind of the issue there. But there are obviously high rolls that you can pick up. But what I've noticed is like consistency does matter in terms of like wanting to play a card over and over and over again. If you play the card like Valentina and like half of the time it works, like that doesn't feel that good. You know, half the time you're like, oh, why did I play this? At least the base stats are good, so you're not like losing value. If this was like a 2-2, then you'd really cry about it. But at least the base stats like acceptable. So definitely like not what you're looking at this spotlight for. You're really looking at it for Athena and Frigga. Now, when it comes to Frigga, I do think this card is a great card in a wrong meta. It would be my best explanation of the card. Frigga lets you copy your last played card. So what's really nice about that is you can copy stat buffs or you can copy cost reduction cards, right? So if you have a card, easy one is like Cassandra Nova, Sage, even buffed up Deadpools, whatever. A lot of people are playing Move with Frigga right now, so you can buff up like a Human Torch or so if you move it and then Frigga whatever, a dagger, whatever you want, right? Any buffed cards, another cards like Mockingbird, if you had a 0-cost Mockingbird, you play it into Frigga, you get another 0-cost Mockingbird, right? Because it's gonna be the same. So there's a lot of like little combos. Anything you've ever played with cloning VATS, this essentially is like cloning VATS for one of your cards. There's some super crazy stuff you can do with that. So the potential's there. I do think 3 cost is low enough that you can get away with it. Obviously, I think 1 or 2 would be fairly broken, and then 4 is like a worse version, right? You'd rather have it cheaper. So I do think it's like an acceptable like balance knob, but I don't think the meta right now works for Frigga because right now everyone's really playing Scar adjacent or like Agent Venom adjacent decks, right? And Agent Venom, your cards are 4 base. Some of them scale, but your cards are 4 base, so you're not really getting like a crazy 0-1-20 or something to play again with Frigga. And then Surtur decks just like, hey, I played a 3-12 into a 4-10 into a 5-12 or whatever, and you're just like, yeah, Frigga doesn't care. Like Frigga's not really doing much into that. So you kind of need a different meta where you're able to set up or create a board state where you can get these huge combos off and then copy and then play another combo off. Kind of like Moon Girl, when Moon Girl was like really good, like She-Hulk stuff was like very powerful, right? And then that's the type of meta where like Frigga can copy your buffed up Moon Girl or your buffed up She-Hulk or whatever, your buffed up Sunspot. That's the nuts. But yeah, I do think it's that type of card, especially if there's like a really powerful 2-drop that like scales or creates like aura value, right? Like a Patriot for 2, or something like that. Then you could copy that ongoing and then have it or play this and the Frigga like at the 2 cost and the Frigga turn 5 and then play it again turn 6. Like that's the kind of stuff Frigga would like excel in. But right now we don't really have something super clean, especially into the meta, So that's kind of the issue for Frigga. I would pick it up if you are missing Thena. I think that's like the easy jump. Like you're missing Thena, and then Frigga is like also good, so you can get those 2 together. Valentina like is just like extra bonus if you don't have her, but I wouldn't say that's the reason you're picking up this spotlight at all. Next up, we have Malekith Copycat Red Guardian. So this one is also very, in my opinion, very good because I think all of the cards are acceptably playable. Like all of the cards past my level of like this is a good card. Like Malekith has some combos we'll talk about. Copycats is just a 3-5 with good upside. Like, and that's kind of the standard 3-5 with good upside. And then Red Guardian is just like one of the better tech cards in the game right now. There's just a lot that Red Guardian can deal with that other tech cards cannot. So it has like this unique position of being able to stop some combos that other like Shang-Chi can't work with or Enchantress can't deal with, you know, some of the other Shadow King struggles with. Right, Red Guardian can do it, so it's a pretty premium card. I would say like Red Guardian actually is the best of the set, but Malekith is pretty cool in that it's a unique way of comboing cards as well as like setting up some synergies. Like something cool you can do is of course Mr. Negative, of course Pixie, right? You can manipulate the stats of your deck. Like that's one way to just get out something overpowered, but it pulls 1, 2, or 3. So if you can build your deck around maybe having like very powerful threes, not a lot of ones and twos, something I would love to see is you can set up like maybe a Patriot deck or whatever, or just any Mystique synergistic deck, and then you play this, you pull a Mystique, right? And the Mystique will trigger end of game, so you can do something like Onslaught with this Mystique, or like Blue Marvel with this Mystique that's just coming out. You know, you could have the double Patriot stuff. You can do something cool because you know what the 3-drop is. Your opponent does not know, right? So you have the like extra tool there to do some cool stuff. I think it's not as like crazy in Silver Surfer because you have to pull Silver Surfer, or but very likely you have so many threes that it's not gonna be Silver Surfer. And like let's say you pull like a Brood, right? Even if you play Silver Surfer final turn, the Brood will trigger end of turn, so you're not getting that Silver Surfer buff. So it's a little bit weird. You could maybe do it, but it doesn't look consistent in practice for Silver Surfer particularly. But I do think there's some other cool options that are pretty unique to take advantage of. So I'm solid on this card. I do think Red Guardian is like the reason you'd go for this, but I think all these cards are playable, which is solid. And if you want them or you're missing like 2 of the 3, definitely pick it up. So that's my opinion on this one. Next up we have Fenris Wolf and Nihilus Red Werewolf by Night. Now, I would say Annihilus and Werewolf by Night are probably some of the weaker cards in this spotlight overall. Annihilus sees some play in Galactus decks, but it really did get neutered from the nerf where it wasn't able to do swap 0 cost or 0 power cards, so you do lose a lot of that flexibility. The debris angles are not as strong as before, and just the clog angles are not as strong as before. And then Werewolf by Night is just like very clunky, I guess is the word I would use. Like compared to some of the tools and the options we have now, where 3 cost Werewolf by Night is just like, like you have other things to do for 3 mana that's good or better and don't require the thought process of having to play perfectly where the werewolf has to move and then move and then move and then move, and you have to make sure you have the space and everything works fine. Like it's definitely way more work to do a Werewolf by Night deck than to play Surtur. You know what I mean? Like Surtur you play and then you play 2, 4, 4. You play a 4 and a 5 and then you have a free Scar. Where Werewolf by Night, like you're moving it like 10 times to have that free Scar. It's a lot of effort. So not super sold on the supplemental cards Nihilus and Werewolf by Night. If you're really going for it, you're going for Fenris Wolf. Now Fenris Wolf is a weird card because I personally don't like the design. I know my what is it called? My webcam is spazzing out, but I do not like the design of Fenris Wolf. To me, this feels like a noob stomper. So the reason I say that is because when it has the ability to revive the highest card destroyed or discarded by your opponent. You're the highest power, right? So what can happen is you're playing Fenris Wolf in one lane, right? Your opponent is doing whatever they want, and you go Shang-Chi, because I feel like Shang-Chi and like maybe Gladiator, and then like maybe some random Moon Knight. I don't think you're gonna really see a lot of like discard synergies with Fenris. I think the Shang-Chi angle is too appealing for a lot of people to lean into the discard aspect of Fenris Wolf, right? But you Shang-Chi something, right? So you kill their 10 plus power card in one lane, and on the same turn you activate your Fenris Wolf, and you get that 10 plus power card right back in a different lane. So by playing the Shang-Chi, playing the Fenris Wolf, you're essentially winning 2 lanes with this card, and that is just very powerful. Now, the downside, the reason I say it's a noob stomper is because that's gonna happen into newer players. I think the more experienced players will already be running tech, right? So you're having Cosmo show up so much. Like even in the starter decks right now, you have Cosmo, you have armor, you have these tech tools to deal with the Fenris Wolf. So in those matchups, in high level matchups, you're not really going to get to Shang-Chi people as easily as you'd want, right? So you play this, you hope for the dream, but into the matchups that matter, into the players that matter, they already are playing Armor's Cosmo. You're not going to be able to Shang-Chi them. But against the newer players, the players that don't really know, hey, I need to be intentionally running these tech defensive cards because Shang-Chi has been a problem in this game since the beginning of time. You're going to just be able to Shang-Chi them and steal their card and say, you take their girl and you run with it, right? It's a little bit insulting that Fenris Wolf can do that for a 2-cost card. Like, I think it's so powerful for a 2-cost card to be able to steal your 10 plus cost card. And there isn't a lot of other synergies that really engage Fenris Wolf as much as Shang-Chi. So I think that's really what players are going to do because it's the most toxic thing to do. And we've seen how players work. They just lean towards whatever is toxic, like, sure, they're all day because it's toxic. Yeah, that kind of thing. So I just don't like the essence of the card, but I do think it's playable, and it's the type of card that wins games after the meta settled down, right? So like once people aren't as I'm running Armor and Cosmo in every one of my decks, right? Once people are done with that, they've moved on to the next thing. Then you can run a Fenris Wolf deck and ruin everyone's day. So it's like there are so many cards that get released that I think suck the week they were released, right? There's so many cards because everyone is aware that it exists the week it releases. But you give them a month, right? Everyone forgets what cards exist after a month. And then Fenris Wolf can pop off, ruin your day, and take everything you wanted, everything you wanted for granted. So yeah, definitely a card like you can pick up if you are that type of player. You just like being mean or whatever. I don't know, but but yeah, I don't think the week you get it, it's gonna be that good because people are going to run tech, people are going to run armor, people are going to run Cosmo. You're not going to be able to Shang-Chi as freely in the higher levels. But I think give the meta a month, and then you're able to do that kind of thing. Now, another thing about Fenris Wolf that I would say makes it a little bit weaker is even though it's strong that it's an activate, you can activate turn 6. By playing Fenris Wolf, in most cases you're like saying, "Hey, I have a Shang-Chi." Like, "Hello, sir. I am running Shang-Chi. Watch out for me." Don't play as obvious Shang-Chi target as you would want, because I'm running a Shang-Chi. That's what it says to me if I see this on the board. So you're telegraphing things to your opponent. Like, let's say it's turn 5. You've played, I don't know, some 5 draw. You've played the Gilgamesh for some reason on 5, and the opponent has a Fenris Wolf and he snaps you. Well, yeah, like, I may as well just scoop. Yeah, I may as well retreat here because they're telling me everything I need to know about the turn 6. Right, so that is a little bit of a weakness. It might be too telegraphed that it's hard to get people to stay into those final turns if you're not snapping early or anything like that. If you're snapping early, then yeah, you can get away with it. But if you're like turn 5 snap Fenris Wolf on your board, they have a 10 plus card, like it's so that is a little bit of an issue there, so just be aware of that. So I think the card is good, but not good into the meta. Like the tech meta with everyone running Surtur and Surtur players running Cosmo and Armor, and it's the type of card that would get better over time when people are not like fully prepared for it. And finally, we have Gore. So Gore is maybe the best card of the spotlights, actually. Like, now the reason I say that is this card is giving me Red Hulk vibes completely. Like, it's just a big stupid guy that you play turn 6 and you win a lane for free. Cause like, by my estimations, right, you're going to be playing this when you yourself have a heavy on reveal deck, right? So it's so hard, at least currently, not to have like a large amount of on reveals in your deck. Like, on reveals are so ubiquitous that it's so hard, even if you were trying to avoid it on autopilot, to have like 5+ on reveals in your deck. So I'm guessing like your opponent naturally, without thinking, without doing anything, is going to play like 3-4 on reveals over the course of the game. So it's already base 7 power. If you're playing like 6 on reveals over the game, which is like fairly low in my opinion, but like 6, right? Plus the 7, this thing already has 19 power or so. It's just going to be huge. And this is kind of like the low roll. Especially the week this thing comes out, everyone's going to be running full on reveal decks. There's going to be games where you drop this thing, it's like 38 power, and you're just like, yeah, okay. Like, here we go, sir. Deal with this thing. It's not going to happen. So there's that concern. I do think it's the type of card that kind of balances itself out, because as they design more activates, as they have more ongoing synergy so that people want to play, as they have these like standalone cards that don't have the on reveal tag, right? Gore is going to slowly get weaker and weaker, but especially the week it comes out, and for quite a long time until the amount of reasonable alternative on reveals exist. Like, every time you play a Gore, it's gonna be 20+ power. It's gonna just be a Red Hulk esque. So I've seen it's gonna be Blob esque, Red Hulk esque. That's the feeling I get for this card. So it's hard for me um to say, oh, this card is not something you should get, because I've seen a big stupid guy is just very strong. I've seen it over and over and over. A big stupid guy wins a lane by itself, very strong all the time. So I definitely think this has that same essence. Now, Havoc and Legion, the biggest issues of them is that they're Series 4. They're actually good cards, in my opinion. I think Legion is very playable. Havoc also is being played in Move right now as like a way of like spiking tons of power with the Move synergies. So I don't actually think the cards they're next to are bad, but they are Series 4. And we're in a Spotlight month where everything else is Series 5. And these are the only Series 4s in the whole Spotlight. So it just looks bad, right? If you're Havoc Legion, you're like, everyone else is a Series 5. What am I doing here? Right? We're next to the best card in the Spotlight, in my opinion, right? So intentional. That's how Secondary does it, right? You put the best card next to the worst Spotlight pieces, right? Because it should be able to overcome that downside. But yeah, I don't think the cards are bad though, right? Like, if there were no series tiers, right? I think Havoc and Legion are acceptable cards to have in your collection. So Gore, very strong. Definitely a big stupid guy, especially the week it comes out, and we're gonna be seeing those screenshots of a 40 power Gorg, man. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. And it's like, oh, this is balance. I played my Gorg. It was 40 power. That was kind of fun. Like, so yeah, definitely a cool card if you want it. Would not hate you for that one, but yeah, it is next to the weakest cards in the spotlight, or at least the least expensive cards, right? Being 2 Series 4s. But yeah, overall, like it's definitely a better month than last month, in my opinion, right? Last month they put all of the lower tier Series 4, Series 5 cards in the spotlight. This one has some good ones, right? Dina's pretty good. Red Guardian's very good. Copycat's pretty decent. This one is a little bit mid, but there's some really good supporting cards in the list. So overall, those are my thoughts. I do think it's a pretty good spotlight. There's a lot of strong, useful cards. I'm pretty high on Frigga. Malekith, I mean, it'd probably be like a tier list. Gore number 1. Is it Frigga number 2? Probably Frigga number 2, Malekith number 3, Furnace number 4. Now, I don't think Furnace Wolf is bad. I just think when you play him, like for a while, people are just gonna run tech. Like if they're running like Surtur decks, they're gonna have Armor Cosmo, and then you're probably just beating the noobs that Shang-Chi would win anyways in a lot of cases. So I do think like it's a problematic card once the meta settles and people forget about Furnace Wolf, because you can just win 2 lanes off of your 2 and your 4, right? Like this thing's a 2/3 that summons 10 plus power, right? So it's essentially like a 15 plus power card if you get the Shang-Chi off, right? It's incredibly strong. Whereas Shang-Chi as well, also incredibly strong, right? And you're using very limited resources to have that much of a huge swing if your Shang-Chi goes off on top, and then you usually just win the game if you can get that to work. So just a strong card. I just don't know how likely you're going to get that synergy off in most games is the concern there. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this month. Let me know. I know this is a long video because we had a lot to talk about, but I'll see you next month. Remember, if you want to check out the other channels that I do have, I would very much appreciate it if you want to see more of me. Hey, I love that. But yeah, take care of yourselves and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care of yourselves. Be safe out there. I know it's a dangerous season, but we got to stay strong, stick together. That's really what matters at the end of the day. Peace. Educated, calling snap. Once you watch him, you won't go back. He'll teach you to marvel snap. Your skills will be